Sami Nader joins me now from Beirut. He is the director of the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs. Thanks so much for speaking to us. I'd first like to get your opinion on what seems to be kind of the changing, overwhelmingly peaceful and unified tone that we've seen in these protests. Do you think the violence of the past few days is an anomaly, or do you expect to see this movement clash further with security forces going forward?
Since day one, actually, the authorities or the ruling authority is trying at first to politicize this movement, to say that there is an international power behind it, to recourse to the conspiracy theory in order to deflate this movement. And this was since day one. After they tried to drag it on the sectarian turfs, where they are used to deal with sectarian issue. But the protests keep growing because they are not carrying any political slogan, any sectarian slogan. Yesterday and for the last 3 days, there are systematic attempts in try to drag this protest into violence, and it's an attempt to try to deal with economic issue with security means, because the ruling authority did not try to move an inch and to get closer to the protester demand in order to reach an agreement over the type of government the protesters are asking for. The protesters are asking very directly to a new form of government that is independent from the ruling class, because they are accusing the ruling class of being responsible of the economic dire situation they are suffering from. Lebanon is at the verge of a real hunger. Half of the population is without job, the other half is getting half a salary, and we are seeing like the signs of a real catastrophe getting place.
Right.
So what the protesters are asking for is not to overthrow the constitution, but to abide by the constitution and to get a different type of government. And they are
but you're asking
with the current political system.
These protesters, though, are asking the very government that they're criticizing, rightfully so, of having been ineffective, of having been corrupt, of having very poorly managed the economy. They're now asking them to somehow be effective, choose an effective new prime minister, appoint new technocrats to build a better government. Why would anyone expect the government that has failed them for this many years, they say, to suddenly come forward and solve these problems? Aren't you asking the wrong authorities to sort out the mess?
Thank you for these very good questions, because this is actually, it hits the core of the issue, because the protesters are trying to change things through the democratic rules. They are saying to this political class, we have been voting for you. We brought you to power 3 times in the last 10 years. And now you lost our trust, and we trust you for the last time in 2018 when we voted for you, and you promised us reforms, and you didn't achieve anything, and you couldn't deal with the crisis. Now it's the right time for you to step down, and according to the constitution, until now the protesters are respecting the constitution more than the ruling class, and this is the paradox in this situation, because the protesters are showing that they are sticking to the democratic principle and the constitutional principle far more than the ruling class.
Some would say you're asking the arsonist to actually put out the fire, but let me ask you, who do you envision filling the political void at this part? Where are the technocrats that these protesters want to step in and run this government?
I mean, when the protesters say about, they talk about technocrats, they mean independent people. They mean people who do not belong to this political club, this ruling class, this political establishment. And there are many names are circulating on the social media of people who are competent, who had excellent careers as diplomats, as judges, as CEO of international companies. The problem is not to find names. The problem is to get rid of this sectarian political system that is in place and that is responsible of the ruins of the economy. So, because the problem is not technical and it needs technocrats, the problem is fundamentally political and it needs independent people in order to get rid of this political system that is responsible of the current crisis.
Okay, Sami Nader joining us there from Beirut. Thanks so much for that.